And we are live. A wonderful Wednesday to each and every one of you. Good afternoon to our Zoom participants, and also good afternoon to our FB Live, YouTube, and LinkedIn viewers. It's another live webinar series for a cause powered by Ariva Academy. And our topic this afternoon is transformations through growth mindset, learning and thriving through challenges. My name is Irish Malonda, and later I will be joined by Mr. Howell Mabalot as our moderator. So please allow me to acknowledge first our out of the country participants, and they are watching from Chennai, India, Petaling Jaya, Malaysia, Doha, Qatar, Singapore, Sharjah, United Arab Emirates, and Dubai, United Arab Emirates. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. And please allow me as well to thank our major sponsor, Pacific Cross Philippines. And they are a leading provider of medical plans in the Philippines. And they are hashtag here for you to protect what is most precious to you. Pacific Cross offers a wide range of health benefits, such as coverage for hospital confinement, outpatient treatment, emergencies, viral illnesses, including COVID 19, among many others. Send them an email via info at pacificcross.com.ph. Again, it's info at pacificcross.com.ph. Okay? And in order for us to have a smooth flow of our e-learning session, here are the house rules. We would like to know who are first-time viewers of our webinar. Please type in hi in the chat box now. Okay, let's check. And for those of you who are our avid viewers, this is your second time, third time, fourth time to watch our webinar, please type in hello. Okay, let's check. Welcome Alvin Soriano, Fiona Bautista, Jai Malin, Antonio, Hershey, Jessica, thank you. Hello, Miss Pasita, Antoinette Ortauste. Okay, Elizabeth Rogelio Mirales, welcome. Emmanuel Katahan, hello. Hello there, sir. Okay, so far, and let's do our audio check. You will be needing a good quality headset. Please use the following codes. Type in 111 to show if you can hear me, if you can hear us loud and clear, and we are audible. So far, 111, Mark, Mary Ann, Evelyn Andrade, thank you. Antonio Alvarado, Ritz Bernal. Okay, Regine Sales, 111. Hello, Sir Howell, welcome back.
Thank you for having me. PLDT is getting weird by the day, and I'm happy to be back, Ma'am Iris.
Okay, so far Maria Daisy Bonagua 111, loud and clear. Okay, so type in 222 to show if you cannot hear me. If you cannot hear us, no sound at all. 2121 means the sound is breaking or there's a lag, and question mark if you don't understand anything. So far, Sir Howell, we're loud and clear. Okay.
111, 111.
Moving on, we will be having a quick break later after the presentation of our guest speaker and before we move on to our question and answer portion. Participants' microphones will be temporarily disabled by the administrator during discussion to avoid interruptions. Questions will be entertained after each topic of the session. For questions and clarifications during the provided time after each topic, please click the raise hand button for the administrator to enable the microphone for live questions. Yes, later in the question and answer portion, we will entertain live questions from our Zoom participants. Type in your questions at the Q&A box. Again, at the Q&A box, not in the chat box. One question at a time will be entertained. For comments and feedback, please scan this QR code. This will be directed to our feedback form. Please send us your comments, suggestions, topics to discuss in order for us to have a smooth flow of our e-learning session. Okay, and now to discuss transformations through growth mindset, learning and thriving through challenges, Mr. Howell Mabalog, please introduce our speaker for this afternoon.
Of course. Thank you, Miss Iris. Am I getting across clearly? Is my sound 111?
Also, sir.
Yes. Thank you, Miss Irish Malonda Samson, our ever beautiful president. And yes, our speaker for today is a decorated HR practitioner with 25 years of HR experience with national, regional, and global leadership roles from different industry leaders such as DHL, Citi, Globe, IBM, and Baker McKenzie. He has strong expertise in business partnership, talent management, organization development, and HR analytics. He is a certified MBTI and DDI facilitator and a certified strategic HR business partner. As an advocate of people analytics, engagement, and wellness, he has been a keynote speaker in many occasions in Asia and Europe. He is a pioneer in the shared services industry and was appointed the 2018 chair of the GICC HR Committee and the IBPAP Capability Building Committee. He is recognized and awarded Project Manager and People Leader. Among the awards he received are the Globe Excellence Award for Project Management, IBM HR Partnering for Project Diamond, PMAP's Exemplar Award for People Management, one of the Philippines' most talented HR leaders, and one of the 100 global HR heroes by the HR World Congress. He is also recognized as one of the 100 Filipinos to follow on LinkedIn. Eric earned his degree from the University of the Philippines as the year's top psychology graduate. Eric also has postgraduate education from Ateneo, La Salle, Universidad Complutense de Madrid, and Universidad Politécnica de Madrid. Ladies and gentlemen, Sir Eric Riego De Dios.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon, Sir Eric.
Yeah, am I coming in clear and my video is also crisp?
111.
Perfect.
Both the video
Wonderful.
and
Thank you so much for that humbling introduction, Howell. And it's a great opportunity, especially in these times of crisis, that all of us in the HR community should actually gather together, listen to each other, be each other's strength, draw from each other's strength and experiences, and just uplift each other up, because we in the HR profession actually has a privilege in working in HR, but it also at the same time a responsibility. So we don't take this responsibility very lightly. In fact, this is a very it's a burden on our shoulders. We just have to carry and make sure that all of us are uplifted through the process, and we will come out stronger than ever after this pandemic
yeah,
situation.
that's why we're excited to have you, Sir Eric.
And I think this topic that we have chosen, Howell, is very relevant in this day and age. Such that, what are the things that are bothering us? What is keeping us awake at night? What are the things that hopefully should not happen, but eventually we should prepare ourselves in the eventuality that things might happen? So all of these things are bothering us. We can't go out, and everybody's talking about the new normal without really knowing what the new normal is. And definitely it's all about change, and every change would be a struggle, and it would force us to actually transform and be better than before. And with that note, Howell, I would like to invite us to actually view the deck that we have presented, so and prepared for
Okay.
us. So
Wow.
if you can see, Howell, could you just give me a quick check whether you can see clearly the presentation in
The
your deck?
presentation is crisp and clear and inspiring. Seeing that beautiful butterfly.
Thank you, Howell. And thank you so much for pointing that out. In fact, I have chosen this image just to emphasize the topic that we have this afternoon. It is all about transformation, Howell. And just like as it's sort of an old school analogy, Howell. But please indulge me. We go through a process of transformation, and it's filled with paths of struggle. It's not easy. Sometimes you have to shed your own skin. There will be some physical changes, mental, spiritual. But lo and behold, after all of those struggles and transformation and changes, something beautiful will happen. And that's why I invite and enjoin everyone to actually put that heart of transformation in us, and put that growth mindset as well on the top of our head. And I think we will just try to be stronger, and things will be better. And when the road gets rough, the tough gets going, right? So I guess that's what we have to do moving forward. So it's transformation through growth mindset. And what do we exactly want to cover in this topic this afternoon, Howell? So I had in mind the first topic is well, even before the topic, that's a noisy background. And
That's
some of
the
you,
waterfall in Singapore.
that's right, Howard. Thanks for pointing that out. And why I particularly have chosen Singapore as our image to start off our discussion is, and many of you have gone to Singapore, and in fact, Howell, you are very familiar with this. You in fact
Yeah.
have named, almost named it. It is the indoor waterfall called the Jewel at the Changi International Airport, which is actually in Singapore, as you have mentioned. 30, 50 years ago, what can you say about Singapore, Howell? I don't know if you have been there about 50 years ago, maybe
Well,
not.
50 years ago, I saw documentaries about it, and how pitiful and dry that mole of a land.
It's a mole of a land, it's
Yeah,
beautiful, dry land. But if we go back to Singapore now, how would you describe Singapore, Howell?
the most expensive city in the world.
It is polished, it's well gardened, it's manicured, it's immaculate. It's the cosmopolitan city of the world right now. And
Yes.
before we are saying that the most expensive cities are found in Switzerland, whether that is Zurich or Geneva,
Mhm.
very expensive. But lo and behold, 5 years ago, we already have Hong Kong and Singapore as the most expensive cities in the world. And it's also a sign of progress. How well, it's not just the expense and cost of it, but with that, of course, comes your technology
Yes.
advancement. Most of the hubs of the global and regional operations are already in Singapore, for example. And look at the transformation. And it all started with a clear vision. So, if that could happen to a country, how much more could that happen to a person, to a corporation? So let's just keep on inspiring each other, and hopefully we'll be able to cover in an hour or so. We will revisit growth mindset. There's a lot of
Mm.
talk about growth mindset, and for most of us who are in this call, this is not your first time to be hearing growth mindset. But sometimes in the cacophony of things, as we talk about growth mindset, there are nuances and sometimes cover the authenticity and the integrity of the meaning of growth mindset. So we will try to revisit growth mindset, and hopefully we'll have an operating point of view and how do we approach and attack this concept moving forward, at least in our discussion. The second point, Howell, is what is its role in transformation? Why is growth mindset important in any transformation, maybe from a personal perspective, a relational perspective, and even a corporate perspective? So we will try to see the elements that are at play there, and hopefully we'll have some takeaways as well. And with those takeaways, we don't want to leave all things from a theoretical perspective. We don't want it to be just a mindset. A mindset should cause us into action, and action should cause us to transform and change. And at the end of the day, if there is just one takeaway that causes our participants to take action, to improve, and that would be a catalyst for transformation, I think, Howell, our time spent here would have been worthwhile.
I agree. I couldn't agree more.
So, with that in mind, let me just try to move on and press forward. And just to set a bit of context, because I want to understand what is the mindset as well of our audience participating in this afternoon's discussion. So, talking about mindset, I have some questions here, not necessarily questions, but statements. And
Okay.
depending on how our audience would respond to those statements, we would somehow try to, in a very crude and rustic manner, try to mimic what Dr. Carol S. Dweck actually did in her lifetime of experimentation and research. So maybe just a background, and I think this is a good time to have that context in mind. How all of these are theories and started in an
Mhm.
academic setting. So how, if I may I ask you, where did you graduate? Which not necessarily university, but high school or
Hi,
pre-university or
in
preparatory?
high school, it's a state college in Lukban, Quezon.
Wonderful, wonderful. It's great because it does not really depend on where you started. It's really more about where you're ending, especially in our concept of growth mindset. So look, Ban Quezon, and
Lukban, Quezon.
and let me just tell you a story about myself as well, because when I was in high school, I graduated from a very um, modest school. So I'm a graduate of Kapitbahayan Elementary School. I don't know whether you would recognize that. So it's a small elementary school in Nabotas.
Mhm.
And of course, it's where most of the communities would go because it's near their place.
Mhm.
And then I transferred to St. James Academy, which is a private school, and then on to University of the Philippines. So, what's the relevance of that in our discussion in Carol Dweck's study of the mindset? So, what she did is people graduating from, for example, in Lokban, Quezon,
Mhm.
would have some sort of grouping. So I came from St. James Academy, you came from Lukban. So regardless of where we came from, we are grouped in three different sets. The first set would be your control set,
Mhm.
meaning you don't necessarily introduce anything new there. So it all is status quo. The first set is where we will introduce our theory of the growth mindset, where people are actually prepped in their mind that their effort, their focus on work, their focus on uh, working hard would eventually dictate what will happen to them in the university and when they graduate from the university. So the success in terms of graduating, getting honors will be measured later on. Thus, group B would be provided a mindset that, hey, Howell, you are the valedictorian coming from Lokban. You are
Mhm.
so good. You're so
Mhm.
talented. You're very smart. Your IQ is 150. It is at a genius level. I'm
Mhm.
sure you will be successful in college. So that is the kind of mindset that Carol Dweck prepared those students, as opposed to those students that are focusing on effort, focusing on hard work, and on the control set, they did not do anything just to make sure that when we test them, we will know whether it is comparable to the group A or group B. And lo and behold, after let's just say 4 years of study, those that were focused on working hard, those that were focused on effort based and motivation, actually were more successful in terms of grade, in terms of getting the awards, honors, and so on and so forth, as opposed to those who were eventually mentioned as valedictorian, geniuses, and whatnot, we're less in terms of achievement, in terms of our general average. And this is significant and actually more comparable with a control group. They saw that the group A, which is focused on growth mindset, succeeded significantly better than either of the two groups. So that is the start of all of this talk about the theory of the growth mindset, which right now actually transcended even beyond the academic milieu, right? So it's beyond academe now. We can now apply it on a personal perspective, on a relational perspective, and even on a corporate perspective. So with that, that's a big introduction, Howell, and I hope that people are still listening. I know that this is one of the unholiest hours of the day. So let me just wake you up by inviting you to respond to our first poll or to our first survey. So our
Okay.
first survey, our first poll would say, there's a statement, if you read it correctly, if you work really hard, you can actually make yourself an expert.
Okay, dear Zoom participants, please, well, answer the poll question, the first poll question. Do you strongly agree? A. B. Do you agree? C. Neutral. D. Disagree. Or E. Strongly disagree if about the question working really hard can actually make you an expert. We're excited to find out what the
Right.
result will be.
There's still a bit of movement, and we are seeing about 59% responses. So maybe when we reach 70, we'll be good and just
So,
say that we're there.
okay, the poll question usually lasts 60 seconds, Sir
Yeah.
Eric. That's the automatic time for the release of result. But on your end,
There you
what do you
go.
see? Okay.
Yes. So this is what I see, Howell. We see that for most of our participants, it's about 48%. It's B. Most of them agree, and followed by 39% strongly agreeing, with bits and pieces falling into the neutral. And there's also four people saying that they disagree. All right. So this provides us the concept of effort at work. And most of our
Uh,
participants actually believe that when you exert effort, you can make a difference in terms of your ability or your capability. So let's just set that aside. So at least we know the temperament and the context of our audience on the first question. May I call on the next question to be posted? So poll number two. Poll number two states that you believe or I believe that abilities or capabilities are not set and can still be significantly developed. So the operational word there is significantly developed.
okay. Zoom participants, type in your answer. Do you strongly agree? Do you agree? Are you neutral about it? Do you disagree? Or strongly disagree about you believing that your abilities are not set yet and can still be significantly developed. So, how's the movement, Sir Eric?
The movement is very interesting. As opposed to the first question, there is a lot of tendency from our participants to strongly agree in this
Wow.
statement. In this case, I think it states a bit the flexibility. I know we will discuss this a bit more later, but just a preview. You know that from an infancy stage, we sort of
Mm-hmm.
were advised or we were informed that at a certain age things become a bit more rigid and cast. And when you reach about 30, your mental ability is more or less cast already, and there's
Mm-hmm.
little flexibility in terms of improving or changing. So let's see from a scientific point of view, how is that panning along? Is it still true now? What are the new evidences or researches that would point us whether there is still malleability, so to speak, or flexibility in terms of our mental and organic capability? So it seems that the vast majority of these
Mm-hmm.
participants are leaning towards strongly agreeing.
Yes. Almost, I mean, if you will include agree, it's 99%.
Yeah, yeah. So definitely, it's a good indicator, Howell. So for the last question or statement, the third polling statement says, "I or you would like to take on new assignments so you can be stretched and learn new things."
Okay, participants, same goes with poll question number three. A to E, do you strongly agree? Do you agree? Neutral, do you disagree? Or strongly disagree about you liking to take on new assignments so you can be stretched and learn new things. I'm not sure if the operative word here is stretched or learn new things. We'll find out
Or
with
both, or both. So
okay.
so this is from a context of you are allowed and you have the time and
Mhm,
capability to do so.
mhm.
So when things are in the right place, would you be accepting additional responsibility so you'll be stretched and you will learn something new?
So let's find out.
So there you go.
Wow.
So again, strongly agreeing that I know our HR participants are raring to go to take on new and exciting things, not only for themselves but also for the people that they serve. And it's a good indicator, Howell, of how dedicated our HR community is to their profession and to their professional development as well.
I agree.
So all in all, that's a good preview, and I have a better sensing now of what is the more or less the mindset of our audience, Howell. And I think I'm in good company as far as what I'm seeing from the results.
I strongly agree with you and the results.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So it's a good start, and it's a good context for every one of us. It sets the tone. So with that, I would like to move on to the next segment of our slide there. So there you go. So I just
Mm.
summarized the different polls here. So let me just take out this part, play it again. All right. So for those of you who are interested, this is just a summary of the
Mm.
questions that we have actually responded to. And I'm happy to share the deck to you. Just reach out to me directly if necessary. So,
Wow.
all in all, I just want to summarize what we have uh, talked about earlier on, just to summarize this whole book into just one
Mm.
statement, and for us to have a good takeaway. So, growth mindset is all about the belief or the theory that ability or capability can be developed through effort and by embracing challenge. So, again, ability can be developed through effort and embracing of challenge. I know it's kind of oversimplification, so let me just expound a bit more by providing some elements of the growth mindset. So, as you can see, the first question is all about effort. And we also talked about the definition of growth mindset, focusing on effort. So, it's all about effort. There has to be an element of effort. How will we talked about malleability? We said that do you believe that you can still improve your ability slash capability even when you are 60 years old? So
Mm.
there is definitely a lot of studies about that. So prior to and thank you for the introduction, because I did graduate from the Department of Psychology from UP Diliman, and there's a lot of study about child development, and the focus there is, and I don't know whether we have changed that, but there is a strong discipline or a school of thought that believes that certain flexibility or malleability of the brain
Mm.
actually
Yes.
stops after a certain period of time. So let's just
Mm.
say 25 years old to 30, and after that there is very minimal change in terms of the development of your brain, and thus we equate that to, will you still be able to adopt new learning, new will you be able to translate new experiences into actual capability? So, and that's the old adage, where the old adage came from. You can't teach old dogs new
New
tricks.
tricks.
Yes. So, is that still relevant right now? And I'm sure, how will you know Albert Einstein?
We all do.
We all do. We all
We all
do.
do.
So, there seems to be a bit of misconception, and we all know that Albert Einstein, coined the theory of relativity, right?
EMC square.
Yes, precisely. EME equals EMC
MC
square. That's right. And then we know that he's a genius, right? He's a physicist, and the theory of relativity was
Mm.
started by him, and actually, he brought that to life. But the reality is, he struggled even the early days of
Yes.
his schooling, right? And we will not necessarily say that he is conventionally smart. And as we also probably, if you would read his biography, as he went through his more mature age,
Mm.
and when did he actually develop his theory of relativity? Not during his 25 or 30 years old, definitely during the time when he is more mature. And when they study the brain of Albert Einstein, it is not because he has more neurons
Mhm.
than the average person or human being, it is because he has more connections or connectors between his neurons. And
Wow.
most of those connections actually were developed during the latter stage of his life, not in the early stages of his life. So it goes to show that our brains and us can still change even from a physiological perspective. Even the brain can still develop even at the ripe age, at the mature age. And lo and behold, even Pablo Picasso, when did he create his masterpieces? When did Leonardo da Vinci paint the Mona Lisa? Definitely not during his early 30s, not during his late 20s, right? So it goes to show that there is still malleability, strong inclination with the recent theories, with the recent researches, that the brain can still change, that we can still improve, and that will result in greater capabilities and greater abilities. And that's why we're focusing on effort and we're focusing on malleability from the concept of the growth mindset. Continuous improvement. So many of you said that you would like to take on assignments so you can also learn and improve. It's all
Mhm.
about continuous improvement. So this is a very dynamic mindset that I am proposing and inviting us to really look into, because this is as opposed to something that is just a glimpse or a snapshot of a certain point in time at a certain period. You are looking at a journey, because Howell, I am not judging you based on your IQ test right now. I am judging you based on what you will achieve from now until the next point in time. Did you improve from this baseline moving on? And we will know more about that, because there are certain concepts or elements of the fixed mindset that really hinders us from growing as opposed to the growth mindset. And so I've been talking, on and on. So let me just invite you to view again another video that somehow would provide us another good summary and set the tone for the theories of a fixed mindset versus the growth mindset. So video, please play on.
Researcher and professor Carol Dweck uses the term mindset to describe the way people think about ability and talent. Dweck delineates between two different mindsets that exist on a continuum. The first is the fixed mindset, which suggests that your abilities are innate and unchangeable. The second is a growth mindset, which views it as something you can improve through practice. In a fixed mindset, you view failure as permanent, but with a growth mindset, you see failure as a chance to learn and even pivot. Those with a fixed mindset are more likely to view critical feedback as a personal attack, while those with a growth mindset will see it as a chance to improve, where they can develop new systems. With a fixed mindset, you're more likely to choose easier tasks and put in minimal effort. After all, if talent is fixed, why bother improving? Why even try? But with a growth mindset, you're more likely to embrace challenging tasks and work hard to improve. Those with a fixed mindset are likely to give up when they face an obstacle. Meanwhile, those with a growth mindset will view obstacles as a chance to experiment and solve problems. In a fixed mindset, the focus is on measurable accomplishments. But with a growth mindset, the focus is more on a journey of continual improvement. With a fixed mindset, you're less likely to take creative risks. But with a growth mindset, creative risks are simply a way to innovate and improve. Ultimately, your mindset influences everything from creative risk-taking to how you view feedback to whether or not you finish difficult tasks. And in the end, it's one of the greatest factors in determining whether or not you grow and improve in your abilities.
So I do hope that you have some takeaways there, Howell, because that
Yes.
provides us our concept. So I will not necessarily go through very intricately into the
Mm-hmm.
details of that, but I do have an invitation for us to focus on this slide because this somehow summarizes whatever that the announcer in that video actually mentioned and covered. So this is just a summary of all of those concepts that we have listened to earlier on. So fixed versus growth mindset, and I
Mm-hmm.
would just like to say how that maybe let's just take away intelligence. Let's just say it's ability or capability because it applies not only to intelligence but to your overall capability and as a performer in the office as well. So let me just very quickly go through this, Howell, if I may. So
Yes,
we
sir.
said that for the fixed mindset, we avoid challenges. And why do we avoid challenges? Because when you are said, Howell, you are the smartest person in this classroom, chances are for you to preserve that title or that label, you would shy away from anything that would make you look otherwise, especially when you are looking at a new challenging situation that you're not familiar with. And then people would view you as you. I thought Howell is the smartest person here. So that is the concept. Whereas the growth mindset would actually focus on trying to learn and would be excited to try out new things because it is something that would add on to their experience that later on they can use potentially in work, in life, in their relationship. And because we easily give up due to obstacles because of the fixed mindset, but for the growth mindset, we persist despite obstacles because it is just part of the learning curve, so to speak. If you are the smartest person here, Howell, why would you exert an effort? You are already the smartest person, right? So why would you do anything that would prove otherwise? And if I am not the smartest person, but if I am said to be the hardest working person, I would focus even more effort so as I will be able to master things. And that is the growth mindset for you. How about for feedback? From an organizational setup, the growth mindset is largely more attuned to where we want to be from a corporate standpoint. We want to have a coaching, a nurturing, a mentoring organization. That would not happen if all of us would have a fixed mindset where people would shy away from constructive feedback because they will view it as something that is opposing what they believe of themselves. I graduated as valedictorian of my university, and now you're telling me that I am not good? How can that be? Versus a person who is very open. How can I improve more? How could I learn? And how could I do things better? That is the kind of person that hopefully, Howell, we want to be in our team. We want to be in our corporation. And as opposed to a fixed mindset, many of the people and actually the CEOs and the chairmen of organization who are focused on the fixed mindset thought of themselves as the hero, the superstar, the savior of the organization. This organization has been successful because of my effort, because of me, as opposed to leaders who are wearing the growth mindset. They are actually more vulnerable, more authentic, more listening to the people, and they're not afraid to show their feelings. They're not afraid to show their failures because they are human beings and they are learning, much like anyone else in the organization. So I think there are some thoughts here that we really have to digest and also to make sure as HR practitioners, what is the kind of mindset and how do we adopt this in building the culture of our organization. And definitely, when we talk about transformation, where transformation would thrive, is it in the fixed or in the growth mindset? So that is more of a rhetorical question,
Mm.
actually. But I guess we all know where this is heading. So as I mentioned earlier, because there are, Dr. Dweck's study has been here for about 20 years or so. There have been some changes, and there are also transformation in the way that it is being translated and interpreted. And I like the way some recent interpretation also came about. So from the fixed mindset, it's all about the now. I took a test in IQ and the result is 125, which means I have a superior IQ and I'm a
Mm.
superior human being, for example. And I will carry that label moving forward. I am superior and I don't want to listen to everyone. Versus the concept of not yet. And it's a great thing because Carol Dweck actually spoke at the University of Chicago, and she was surprised when she realized that there is a scoring or a grading system uh, of the Chicago University. But before I proceed, how in the University of the Philippines, our grading system is from 1 to 5. So 1 being the highest,
Mm.
sobresaliente according to Jose Rizal,
Yeah,
right?
so blessed.
And then we have 5 meaning failure, and then we have 4 as
Or for incomplete.
incomplete, and 3
Same with Adamson University, where I took up computer engineering.
right. So
So 1 to 5.
and 3 is just pass.
Fast.
Yeah. So instead of saying that you have failed or 5, instead of saying 4, the University of Chicago has a grade of saying not yet.
Not yet. Wow, I like
And
that.
there is the power of saying not yet, because you are not labeling the person as a
Mm-hmm.
failure or number 5, which is,
Mm-hmm.
of course, just masked under the number 5, which is essentially
Mm-hmm.
failed, right? So they are trying to avoid labeling people as a failure or a success, because that is
Okay.
just a snapshot of a certain point in time. My grade in Psych 101 does not define me as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And if I fail that, I should not be treated or labeled as a failure. So it's a great thing because the thought there is I am evolving. I might
Mm-hmm.
not have I might not have passed this
Mm-hmm.
time, but what is telling anyone that I will not pass in my next attempt? So that is again another view of the growth mindset,
I
because
like that.
it's very impactful when you focus not because how well you're smart, but when you focus on attributing and motivating your children. For example, I
Mm-hmm.
like the way that you study. It is very disciplined and you put
Mm-hmm.
a lot of effort in studying. And I'm not surprised that you get high grades. Instead of just saying, you are a very smart kid. I have always known that you're smart. I'm not surprised that you get high grades. When your focus is not on the talent or the capability, and when your focus is on the action and effort, that is the difference between Group A, and
Mm-hmm.
Group B in Carol Dweck's study, right? And that also somehow tickles our brain on how do we now coach and mentor our people in the corporate setup. It is a destination when it comes to the fixed mindset, whereas it is a journey when it comes to a growth mindset. In the
Mm-hmm.
fixed mindset, people are very particular about validation. I am smart, so you should not say that I am not. And I will not exert effort because I am smart, right? Why should I do it? Anyway, I'm already smart. Or why do I have to prove that I'm smart so I will not necessarily work on this project? Or maybe because out of fear of that project will invalidate whatever label he has put himself on. Versus a person who is learning is not afraid to take on risks, is not afraid to learn and take on challenges. So that's another view of summarizing all of those concepts going forward. So with all of these theories, let's just all simplify because we cannot take away all of these things
Mm-hmm.
after an hour or so of discussion. So maybe just believe, just highlight the bag theory. Belief
Mm-hmm.
leads to action, which is A. B, belief leads to action, A, and then which leads to growth. This is your back theory. Whatever you believe in, Howell, that would push you forward into action, and any action would bring you growth. as opposed to not taking any action at
Yeah,
all,
that's true.
right? So believe in the bag theory. Bag is belief, action, and growth. So moving on, I know that we're already at the half past the hour. So whenever there are challenges, as we are in right now, Howell, I know that for you personally and for some of the listeners and participants, this pandemic has affected us in a myriad of ways. There are many ways that this has changed. This pandemic has changed our way of life, our approach on things, and how we view ourselves. Some of us would be losing our jobs. Not hopefully not in this
Mm,
in our group, but we all know out there in the news, Victoria Court, BPI, they are already providing notices to their employees, and those are some of the more publicized events in terms of
mm,
retrenchment. And there are fewer publicized news, and I'm sure there will be a lot more. So this is a time of challenge and struggle. This is a time of discomfort. But how do we view challenge? How do we view discomfort? How do you view struggle? Much like a butterfly shedding its own skin and having some physical wranglings and transformation, I'm sure it is painful and effortful. But what do we have to do? What is the mindset that would help us? So, one of the greatest women in or powerful women in business, and that is Ginny Rometty, the previous president and chairman of IBM. She said that growth and comfort will never coexist. Growth
mm.
and comfort will never coexist. So
I like it.
if you feel that you are struggling, if you feel discomfort, maybe it means that you are growing, or are being set up for growth. So just take note of that for all of us who might be feeling a bit discomfort given this situation. And transformation. So when there is belief, there is action, there is growth, there is transformation. So when there is growth, there's better performance, there is better readiness. So essentially, these are the things that we have to hold on to. And each wave or each phase, challenge brings transformation, and transformation brings growth. So why is it relevant, Howell, in our day and age, especially in this global pandemic? Why is it relevant to adopt a growth mindset? First is it's quick to initiate action. And I don't know about you, how if you have experienced some of the responses of the corporate world when we first declared GCQ or ECQ.
Mm,
Some of them did not know whether to ask their people to work from home. Are the people equipped to work from home? How do we do some testing? What are the contact tracing, and so on and so forth? Some organizations are more quick than the others. So I know this BPO technology organization, when even before President Duterte declared GCQ in Metro Manila, and later on enhanced to enhanced ECQ or ECQ, they have already very quickly and very nimbly asked their people to work from home, and they provided the computer and laptop to set up from home and the connectivity, such that when Duterte actually said that we are having this quarantine, they are more than ready to support their clients. And the kind of action that they did for their employees, it's a great branding mechanism and marketing for them as well. They showed how they care for their people, and how they care for their clients. And in fact, they turned it around to make it as a business, because what the platform that they're using, so their clients said, so what are you using as a platform? Can we use that as well? So they use that as a new product, as a new business product, and they have earned from it. So instead of their revenues going down because of the pandemic, it actually went up. because they use and they leverage the situation to their advantage, which is a great growth mindset perspective. And instead of wallowing because of the effect and impact of the pandemic, there is a greater and stronger resilience, so to speak. And for people, and now from a personal perspective, I know some of us might be again losing job. Some of us would have experienced some pay cuts. And some speakers, of course, might not have the capability of having that usual face-to-face on-site opportunity, and that would have impact to the livelihood as well, right? So people with growth mindset, only because they are the ones that are focusing on effort, but not also focusing effort, because when you focus, it gives you time to breathe. It gives you time to reflect, and it makes you kinder to yourself as well. So there is self-compassion that is at the core of a growth mindset, because you don't see yourself as a failure, much like you don't see yourself as already a success, because it's a growth and process.
Yeah.
You become kinder to yourself. You become you're cutting yourself more slack, so to speak, because you know that this is not your only chance. There will be another chance. There will be another opportunity. And when that opportunity comes, you will be ready and you will be better. And I think in this time, more than ever, we should be kinder to each other, but we should also be kinder to ourselves.
Yes.
So that is what we need: a bit more kindness and a bit more generosity for each other and for ourselves. And when you have a growth mindset, there's definitely greater openness to novelty and creativity, because you're not afraid to try out new things. Of course, all of this is in the context of measured risk and calculated risk as well. So, as mentioned, self compassion. So, it's growth mindset is great for wellness, because it also shows your vulnerability. So, how right now, before, our concept of a leader is we put them on a pedestal.
Yes.
We try to see them as, oh, they are better than me. They will not create mistakes. I'm sure, because they're smart, they're strong and great, they're heroes. But right now, our modern day heroes and our modern day leaders, the more effective ones right now, are the people who are actually not afraid to say that I have committed a mistake. And I will own that mistake and I will learn from that mistake. It makes them more human and it makes them more authentic. And at this day and age of transparency, where you cannot hide anything, you would have to be transparent, authentic, and true. And that's part and parcel of having integrity, because you cannot hide a lot of things right now. Whatever you probably did, Howell, 2 weeks ago was posted on some social media, right? On your Facebook, on your LinkedIn, whatever. People will see whether you posted that or someone else posted that. People will see the true Howell, more or less. We have a better grasp now of what Howell is really as a person than what our leaders were about 50 years ago, when there is no social media, when there is less transparency, when everything is veiled under a cloud of mystery, so to speak. So with that, I know that we are already in our time. It's almost 10 minutes before we call it a wrap up. I would just like to invite you, because I don't want us to go out of this discussion with all of these theoretical mindset instead of having growth mindset, right? So how do we apply this personally? Are you being hard on yourself? Are you not giving yourself enough chances, second chances, third chances? Because truly you are worth a second and a third chance.
We are, yes.
Relational. Do you, so maybe we can say it from a personal spouse perspective, whether that is on a coaching or mentoring perspective, or also in the office, whether that's a manager subordinate relationship. How do you motivate your people? Do you actually tell them, Howard, you're smart, you're great, you're handsome, you're a great speaker? Or do you say to them, I like the way that you have put this together. There seems to be a lot of effort put into this, a lot of thought. I like that how you prepared things. It's very well presented. You please continue doing so. So how do we change that kind of dynamics for us to create that kind of a growth mindset where we thrive not because we are smart, we thrive because we are wanting to be smarter.
Mhm.
And that's a big difference. So how do you also, will you still implement IQ tests when you hire people? So that's the question. Of course, it's ultimately is the decision of the business, right?
Mm.
But where is the heart and where's the vision and where's the soul of the organization when you want to see the growth mindset? So if I may just, I know that we're running out of time, but when I was in Citibank, I did my personal study because as you know, I am full of biases. I would admit that for the sake of vulnerability of authenticity. How I had my own biases when I was the vice president for Citibank and corporate operations and technology. I was biased for hiring UP Ateneo Lasal, for example, right? So for the first 3 years that I stayed there, I just focused on hiring UP Ateneo Lasal. And later on, where there's already dearth of talent, I started exploring other viable universities. So I did a study. I called it the Ilustrados versus the Indios Bravos. So the Ilustrados are the people who graduated from UP Ateneo Lasal and those who graduated somewhere else. And I did a historical study on their performance rating. What is their average overall
Mm.
performance rating? How many got promoted? And how many stayed in city. So guess what's the result of my study? Was it more favorable for the Indios Bravos, who those who graduated from the other universities, versus from the top three so-called universities?
If you were to ask me, I know the answer.
Right. So let me provide that answer for both of us. So I was actually surprised, and that actually shattered my bias because those people who graduated from the other universities actually had higher average rating. They were
True.
promoted more.
Yes.
They stayed longer
Yes.
in city in that organization.
Mm.
So it goes to show that these graduates from the top universities might have been labeled as smart or a graduate from the top university versus these people who had to exert a lot of effort to prove themselves and to work really hard so that they can learn and they could also be similar to their counterparts from those universities. So that is in a way, and that's an experiential and empirical learning from me. So I would like to ask our people and the audience as well, how can you apply that growth mindset in your own way of assessing, in your own way of developing people? So just to wrap things up, some of you might be familiar with this picture. Howell, would you know this person?
I'm not into history or arts or
Oh,
politics
so,
or.
so this is in the arts, this is in music. So this is
Mm.
Mozart.
Well, I didn't know that it was his face, but I
Yeah.
love
So
his
this
music.
so this is Mozart, and we
Okay.
know that Mozart is a it's a prod he's a
Prodigy.
prodigy prodigy, and at 10 he's already tinkering with the piano, doing a lot of wonderful music. But he might be good at tinkering with the piano, but he was not able to compose a good symphony. He was only able to compose his own composition, which is passable to the king
Mm.
after 10 years of practicing. So it's not just organic talent that is needed to create masterpieces. You really need heart, soul, dedication, blood, sweat, and tears. So it's not just pure talent that is needed. It has to be combination of both. Michael Jordan. I'm sure you know that, right? I'm sure you recognize him. Did you know that Michael Jordan did not pass the varsity test? He was not even accepted at the universities applying for as a scholar because he did not made a cut for the varsity. But who is the greatest basketball player now? If you were to ask anyone who is familiar with NBA, it's simple. It's Air Jordan. So why did he, why is the greatest player not an innate basketball player? He's short for basketball player. He's not the tallest, he's not the strongest, but he's able to do so. And I'm sure some of you might have read Malcolm Gladwell, that he did a lot of practice, shooting 10,000 times before he's able to perfect his shot. So a lot of effort put into it. And IBM, of course, from server, they made their own transformation to become a service provider, from server to service. And there's a lot of change that was done by Lou Gershner, which is pivotal as well in the transformation because he brought the growth mindset leadership perspective in IBM, where people are not necessarily treated for talent, where you put people on a pedestal. So you're more of listening, vulnerability, getting feedback, and trying to change and transform personally, and that actually permeated to the whole organization. And that's why before we thought that IBM will already be a dinosaur and die with their servers. Now they are also one of the leading organization in cloud computing, which is the new technology for the future. So with that, Hal, those are just examples, and I'm sure there are more in terms of transformation. But enough said, I would like now for us to just introspect a bit and try to do some action planning as our takeaway for this afternoon session, Howell.
So with that, everybody, give it up for Sir Eric Riego De Dios.
Thank you.
Wow. What an hour of informative, inspiring session with you, Sir Eric. And it's amazing. There's this one person, Melchor Cordova. Sir Melchor says, the Ilustrados versus Indios Bravos study was an interesting eye-opener.
Which is great because it's real. It's real data. It's a study for 3 years. So it's a rare opportunity where you have that kind of information at your fingertips. And I'm sure for some of you who might already have that kind of HRIS, it might be easier for you to just pull out some information and see for yourself whether that will also hold true in your own organization.
Okay, so I believe our participants have tons of questions. So for the next 2 minutes, we'll be pausing for a break. Sir Eric, you may want to grab maybe a bite or get a cup of coffee. And use that 2 minutes, dear participants, to type in your question because we can only accommodate so much of questions. First in will be the first read. And because of that, type in your questions now. We appreciate, Sir Eric, your 1 hour session, and we're excited for the second part. Don't go away. We'll be right back.